I've sung the praises of Made In Cookware for a while now. I own many pieces myself. Now Made In has changed nonstick cookware for good with their ceramic-clad pans. They're premium stainless pans with next-gen ceramic coating free of harmful materials. Beautiful, even cooking, and easy to clean. It's even oven safe up to 550 degrees. How do I know how great they are? I added one to my kitchen. Don't need a nonstick pan? Made In has pots, cutlery, bakeware, glassware, and everything you need. Take your home cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein, MADEIN. Find out why pros trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour, more like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich. I am almost in vacation mode, and I'm feeling like I have an extra pep in my step this week, despite that I woke up today thinking it was Friday. It is not when we're recording this, but truly getting in vacation mode. Joined, as always, by friend of the show and friend of real life, Kevin Abbott. And Tim Johnson is back. I had that dramatic pause in there. Tim Johnson is back from his assignment. What did you find out, Tim?
I found out that I am very tired and very old. That's what I found out.
Hard-hitting stuff. I also want to just mention that you went out of your way to say I was a good podcasting friend, then pause to let that whole notion go away, then introduce Tim. As
But
if he was not a good friend.
Yeah, exactly. Did not mention me as a friend whatsoever.
You can't take time off, Tim. You lose your status very quickly.
Trust me, that is the story of my life right now. Yeah.
So, gentlemen, we are here to do this podcast about alcoholic beverages, sometimes not alcoholic beverages. And usually how we start is by talking about what type of beverages we are consuming for the show. Tim, what are you having tonight?
You guys are going to laugh and laugh at me. So lately I've been kind of on a root beer kick, just classic A&W. I like a lot of different root beers, but A&W to me is the gold standard. It's the thing that I judge everything by. I know that sounds kind of pedestrian, but it's exactly like it takes me back to my childhood so much of going to a drive up A&W. I'm sure they don't exist anymore, but like literally the tray hooking on the window of the Monte Carlo, to me is just pure nostalgia. And so that's what I always have. So I've been drinking A&W, but I was reading about mixing A&W with light beer, or mixing root beer with light beer. And I also happen to have some Corona floating around in my fridge. And so I decided tonight for the podcast, I would give that a try. And so I am drinking, again, visual medium for our podcast listeners, a A&W Corona mixture. I started it off mostly Corona and a little bit of root beer, and I've slowly been adding root beer in over the last 10 minutes. I have to say it is actually really quite refreshing.
Is there a name for this concoction?
I don't know. I don't even remember where I came across this. Something online I was reading. Fell down an internet rabbit hole one day when I should have been productive and wasn't. And it came up and I was like, you know what? That kind of sounds actually refreshing. Let's go ahead and give that a try. And I have to say, um, I'm quite enjoying it because it's beery, right? As beery as Corona is, I guess. Um,
So
but it's quite delightful.
so I did just look this up, and they call it the devil's urine. That's
Okay,
what they
well,
call it. Yeah.
okay. All right.
No,
Well, good.
I didn't look that up. I,
That would have been awesome if that was what it was. Um, uh, I would have to say Satan has some fantastic piss then, if that's what it is. Um, no, I'm not telling everyone to go out and do that, and it is pretty gimmicky. But it's been miserable by Minnesota standards, normal by Florida standards up here lately. Heat indices in like 102, 100, I think 106 was the highest. I think we're on pace to set the most 90 like days above 90. Or at least we are above average right now, and I think we might be on pace to do that. And the dew points have been insanely high, and it's just been miserable. And I haven't really, you know,
Does the air feel like it's assaulting you?
It does.
It's pushing you down while also holding your face to like the hottest iron ever.
I got a. It's not even a flat tire. I shredded a tire over the weekend. Something got like road debris, clipped my sidewall, shredded my tire. I was outside for maybe 10 minutes to take the shredded tire off of the wheel, and I was wearing a quick dry moisture wicking shirt, and I had to take it off in the first 5 minutes because I had sweat so much through this moisture wicking thing that it was just weighing heavy on me. And this was Sunday morning at like 9 in the morning, and I was already uncomfortable and miserable.
Are you trying to turn on everyone that's listening to this podcast, visualizing you sweaty and shirtless changing a tire? I know what you're
Because
doing.
it's working.
Yeah.
Listen,
Also, I think that the name for that mixture should be Minnesota Moisture Wick.
Okay,
Well,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it,
Yeah.
and I will tell you this: I will have one of those before the end of this upcoming weekend because I love root beer, and I will try that. I do want to say that your nostalgia for A&W is I share it completely. There was a drive-in A&W that was pretty far from my house. We went there a couple times when I was growing up, and I loved it. And there was an A&W fast food joint in Eastland Mall, which was a walking distance from my house. And I was so nostalgic for those burgers and a root beer float, and would go there all the time before it finally closed down. And I always thought it was my favorite fast food joint for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I think that was I think it was A&W that had a 3rd pound hamburger, and they did that so that it would be bigger than the McDonald's quarter pounder, but people were too stupid to understand that the burger was bigger and thought it was smaller, and then they had to rebrand it because nobody understands math. But no, I love A&W. If I found an A&W, like I would drive 3 hours to go get an A&W hamburger no matter what.
Yeah, I mean they've got those fake ones now that are like combo A&W Long John Silvers. And the only thing that's nice about that is Long John Silvers typically have 2 beers on tap, so you can get some A&W and a Bud Light or something like that.
Well,
but everything tastes like grease.
Speaking of things from the Midwest, I will go next in my what am I drinking, because this is a beer that I freaking love and I haven't had in like, I don't know, 5 years, maybe a lot longer. New Glarus Belgian Red. This was kindly given to me by a gentleman named Tony. He listens to the podcast, and he works
Friend of the show, yes.
Friend of the show. He works for Untapped. And there's a couple things that we've been working on kind of together, and I do a lot of business with Next Class. And in the conversations we've had recently, I told him how much I love this beer when he was going up to visit, I think, family in Wisconsin. And I really wanted to do it for Old Favorite Friday. I couldn't get my hands on it. I have such nostalgia for this beer. I get frustrated with overly fruited, gimmicky beers. This is the only one I love. This beer is just perfect. It's so tasty. And Tony was so kind to bring me a 4-pack. It will be coming to an Old Favorite Friday near you sometime soon. And he also, my next beer is going to be a beer, which I believe he said a buddy of his, I think it's his brewery, Amorphic. And it's
Oh, yeah.
a hazy double IPA with Michigan cashmere and Citra hops. So that one also, he brought also a Pilsner for me. So Tony, I know you said you listen to the podcast. I know if you listen to every episode, but dude, thank you so much. I am loving this beer and looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, Morphic makes some very solid stuff. I don't get a chance. I think they're just straight Milwaukee, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's listed as Milwaukee on the
Okay.
can.
Yeah. We'll actually get into a kind of a point I want to make about that actually. Before we get into that though, Mike, how about you? What are you drinking?
I am having my last can of a Scusi, the Italian Pilsner from Civil Society. And then I have that backed up with some Basil Hayden bourbon. Real quick, Kevin, there is an A&W in Auburndale, Florida, which is looks like about 15 minutes from Legoland.
Okay.
So the next time
I
you take your
go,
family to Legoland, you're going to have an excursion to A&W.
you're the man. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. All right, so we today wanted to talk a little bit about a particular retail chain, I guess, which will probably morph into talking about retail chains in general. But Kevin, you had mentioned that Total Wine and More, a really big retailer for beer in many states, has decided to cut down on their beer selection in stores. I have not been in a Total Wine in probably about a month and a half, so I haven't seen that yet. How big of a chunk would you say they've taken out?
So first and foremost, let me just preface this. I've been to one location in the
Okay.
last several weeks. Okay. So this is not me saying that every location has done this.
This is all hearsay.
No, the Boca location, I go in every week. I'm always there. I go in there just to personally merchandise stuff and check things out. I buy beer for Old Favorite Friday. But a couple weeks ago, I noticed they were pulling a bunch of there was, I don't know how long the shelves are. Let's say they're 10 foot. They're 10-foot shelves. And they had 3, I would say 10-foot shelves, 30 foot of space, give or take, dedicated to new beers that are seasonal, recent beers. And they were pulling all that beer off the shelves. And I was just kind of confused what they were doing, restocking, moving stuff around, because in that particular store, the entire back area, both sides used to all be craft beer. And then they slowly took away the one side, and then they shrunk the other side by putting in THC drinks and seltzers. So it had been shrinking over the last several years. And come to find out, what they were actually doing is not getting rid of that space, but they were getting rid of a large amount of the singles. So if you're not familiar with this, and not a lot of stores do this, even I think Publix does, or if not Publix, Fresh Market does this. Whole Foods, I think, does it, where you can buy individual 12-ounce bottles or cans and make your own 6-pack. And for years and years and years, there were 4, maybe 5 shelves dedicated. Not, I say shelves, I mean like 5 high stacked shelves, 10 foot wide, and maybe they're 8 foot. I don't know. Who
Practically
cares?
a whole aisle.
Right. Thank you, Mike. That's the context that we're looking for. And this was a big deal. And this is where I first got into craft beer, by going in there and trying everything. I would just go through the IPA section and try every IPA, get one of every one. And a lot of those would get old, and they'd be 6 months old or 3 years old sometimes when you're pulling them off the shelf. And it was kind of difficult. But what they did was they at least took out 2 of those shelves, it looks like, and put all the new beers on those shelves. Now they still have a small area, maybe cut it in half, maybe cut it in a third, where they do still have a single section, but they put so much of that beer, those singles, and just spread them on aisle end caps throughout the store. and probably are doing some deep discounts to get rid of them. And then that will be a temporary thing. So the beer space, as far as six packs, probably hasn't changed at all. But I think it's really telling that the singles, where the biggest profit margin they probably have on beers on singles, because when you build that six pack, it's usually more expensive than just buying a six pack of Blue Moon or whatever it is. And that was an area where a lot of people really got into beer, were curious about beer, were learning about beer. And the fact that that went away, at least in this store, and if it went away in Boca, I mean, come on, it's probably have gone away in Pompano or whatever else, like that's just kind of the way they do things. And I also know that the beer section in different stores have shrunk as well in other ways, but I just thought it was really interesting. And I think it speaks to the lack of curiosity by the current beer drinking public, at least in South Florida, and the fact that they deem that that was not a profitable area, and that whatever they took over and put in, alcoholic beverages, canned cocktails, whatever it is, they saw more money in that than that thing that had been a fixture for most of my beer drinking life.
I'm curious about your perception of it as people not being curious. Like, I I don't know if it is necessarily that, or if it is just a really logistical thing from Total Wine standpoint of trying to be like, we have too much shit. We need to cut down on the amount of shit. And one way of doing that is cutting down on these singles that maybe don't sell as well, because I think I don't know if people are not curious as much as they are intimidated
Oh,
by
sure.
that. Like, I was overwhelmed by it when I first got into it as a new person in craft beer, and that section was pretty big at that time, but I got over it because I wanted to get deeper into it. But the beer section at Total Wine, at least for the last few years, with the singles, with the new releases, that new release section is a fucking mess. That is what needs to be cleaned up, in my opinion, because there's no rhyme or reason to, like, not every brand is with their own brand items. Like, you might see one Oscar Blues thing on one shelf, and then two like shelves down is another Oscar Blues item. There's so much stuff that is not necessarily new releases anymore. They've been out for a long ass time and have just still been sitting on that shelf. I know I think I sent you a picture. Maybe it was like 3-4 months ago of an Oktoberfest from last year still sitting on a shelf, and it was on the new release shelf, and it was marked down to, I think, like $3.99 for a 4-pack of it. It's still sitting on the new release shelf. But I just think maybe they're finally taking some responsibility for how insane that section was and realizing this intimidated people. They had no idea how to navigate it. And maybe we need to clean up these singles and hopefully maybe some overhaul into another section soon. Because the only things that I really know how to navigate is the regular craft beer section that is alphabetical. And then they have the local section, which is also then alphabetical as well. So maybe it's intimidation that led to low sales, that led to them finally being like, we need to do something about this. But maybe I'm giving more credit than
Yeah, I mean,
required.
I'm gonna go with Kevin here. I don't think it's intimidation, because I think that's something that you saw at not Total Wine. So to go and to talk about other liquor stores, um, I have noticed a lot of liquor stores around me not Total Wine. It's been a long time since I've gone to a Total Wine too. I've got
Do
a
you even have one in your area?
yeah, the closest Total Wine. There's probably 3 within a 20-mile radius.
You have
Of me.
Binnies?
We don't have Benny's, no.
No? Okay.
No, no. But I have I don't know, like 4 blocks down the road from my house is a local liquor store that I go to. Um, I- so I don't really go to I don't go to Total Wine for a lot of reasons. One, first of which is I think they absolutely abuse beer. I hate seeing the amount of warm beer that's still out there. Um, which is one thing I've always hated about the singles section is 90% of the time you see a singles section, it's not in a cooler, it's on a shelf.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that even the liquor stores around me that used to do singles have cut way back on that as well. And for me, I guess if you want to say it was an intimidation factor, then that intimidation factor should have been present in 2012 and in 2018 and in 2020. Like it was around for a long time and now they've disappeared. And I don't think it took 10 years for liquor stores to realize people were intimidated. I think I think it is a trend that people are cutting back on a lot of those. And now again, to your point, the single sections developed a reputation as that is where beer goes to die. Um, which in a lot of places it was a way to be like, hey, let me go ahead and charge you premium for a lesser product. Frankly,
I
here's this.
literally had distro reps tell me, don't take the singles off of the shelf. Go break up a 6-pack if you
Yeah.
want to try something from there because you're going to have the better date codes on those.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know how many times I would see Celebration in April, you know, something like that. But I think because they developed those reputations and because I think added it into there is just that cost, right? So you're talking about how it's better margin. They are paying more per bottle. I think enough consumers have done the math to go, boy, if I want to try new beer, you know what? I'll buy a 6-pack of this and a 6-pack of that, and then I want it to come back for 2 weeks rather than let me buy 2 singles and pay just as much as like I think consumers have gotten a lot more price conscious, and you're not seeing any single section where a single beer costs 1/6 of a 6-pack.
So I think you guys both make really good points. And I think that there's never one reason for anything. And at the end of the day, you're going to, as a business, look at an area and you say, this area needs to be producing this much money. And if you look at that area and it's not producing what other areas are in your store, you're going to cut that and you're going to find a way to increase the volume of something else because you want to increase your profitability. And for whatever reason, it's taken a long time. And that graveyard for beer that you just talked about, Tim, and that I alluded to earlier and Mike's talked about, that's been there that from the beginning. It's never not been that. So
Yeah.
once again, the intimidation factor, the beer graveyard has always been that, but it's been till now where they decided this is something we can cut to hopefully raise profitability on other things. And I think it's telling. It means, it has to mean that even though it's always been problematic, it was once profitable and more
Mhm.
people were pulling those for whatever reason, because they weren't doing the math, could be one of them. And when I talk about the lack of curiosity, it's just, something I threw out there. But if someone's going in and routinely getting 6 different beers in one 6-pack, they're trying to try a bunch of new things. It's someone is not going in there. That same person who used to do that, or the replacement for that person that used to do that, is not going in and buying 6 6-packs of
Mhm.
6 different beers. Maybe they're doing what you suggested, Tim. But overall, they're just not being exposed to as many brands. And
Yeah.
I think it is something that we're seeing in the market where there are less options in some ways. People are, I think, at least from my experience, where people were constantly going out and trying the new thing, people are reverting back to doing the thing they're comfortable with, the thing they're confident with. And there's a million reasons for that. Cans exploding is one of them, right? Bad beer on the shelves is another one. Outdated beers is another one, where the consumer has finally gotten to the point where they're like, I'm just going to get my favorite IPA is fresh. I'm just going to get that. I'm not going to
Yeah.
try every new IPA that comes out because I don't know what I'm going to get with it. And I think even the grown-up beer drinkers that really wanted to try everything and were going to really take a deep dive, I think we're creating less of those. And I think the ones that we had are doing less of that. And it's just something we all have to keep in mind.
I mean, I think another factor is distribution has changed. A lot of breweries are getting out of the distribution game. I know a couple of breweries up here that are looking to convert to a brew pub license. A lot of the breweries that really ramped up into production during COVID because it was the only way to make money are now finding themselves like weighed down by this distribution model that is no longer working. You're seeing a lot of distribution footprints shrinking. There are a lot of brands that used to be available in Minnesota that just aren't. And whether it's Total Wine or it's Joe's Bottle Shop down the street or whatever, like, uh, I'm seeing a lot. First of all, I'm seeing a lot less out of state beer than I ever saw before. There are a couple of major regional or national players that are still there. I'm still seeing Deschutes. Honestly, there's a lot less New Belgium than I think I used to see. And the ones that are all, Space Force. And there's just a lot less. And I think the thing about the build your own 6-pack that was interesting was getting beers that you may not necessarily have access to, or you don't see on tap, and the proliferation of breweries is if I want to go ahead and try a couple different beers, I'm going to just go visit these breweries because my liquor store is carrying a lot of locals anyway. Like the way consumers think about the way they're tasting beer and getting into beer, especially with the hyper localization, it's hard to have a build your own 6-pack section if you can't sell the regular 6-packs too, right? Like distro isn't distributing individual bottles; they're distributing 6-packs that get broken down and turned into individual bottle shelf. And so, if they're not selling enough Bell's 6-packs, you're not going to see those bottles on the on individual shelf. And so, once I saw those, the craft beer sections didn't necessarily shrink, but they just went a lot more local, and the one bottle or one can at a time model for that on a local level, I think makes a lot less sense.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, if you're going to want to be curious and want to have those things, it's not like you're going, oh, boy, I've never heard of this old Rasputin. You're not even looking at that. Those things aren't even available because they're not selling enough of these beers on the aggregate to make the individual make a whole lot of sense. It's like if I'm not going to sell a 6-pack of it, I'm not going to sell a single.
Yeah, and I think even more so now. Like that. That's a great point. I think what would be interesting to see if they do is go the convenience store or even how Publix down here is doing now with singleizing in a cooler very specific brands. Like all tall boy cans.
Or stovepipes.
Yeah.
Have you been to a Total Wine recently? They cut.
I have not.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'll give you the 411 on the Boca location.
They're already doing it.
They've already done it.
Oh,
so
okay.
there used to be, and once again, apologize for anyone who actually works at this place, or maybe Ed still listens every now and then and he'll yell at me. But at one point, I want to say there was 5 doors of beer in the back, right? And 2 of those doors were macro and 3 of those doors were craft. They've eliminated one of the craft doors completely. and now it is, and it's I shouldn't say that, it's craft singles, right? It's but and macro as well.
It's processed cheese.
It's cheese. It's processed cheese. Yes. I was waiting for one of you guys to jump in there. But no, there's craft beer in there, but it's all single serving, large format cans, and they've cut it out. I mean, I was so happy because we sell enough that we stayed in that position, but they cut in when you cut an entire door out of the craft section, that's 1/3 of your 6-packs under cold temperatures that actually sell well. And I was happy that we kept our position there, but they've already done it. And it actually,
Okay.
and I want to say, and I could be speaking out of turn, but I want to say 2-3 years ago, we lost another one 2 or 3 years ago too, and we lost that to seltzer and wine and canned wine and this, that, and the other. I want to say it used to be even bigger. So we're losing that space as well. If you're not working in that space, if you don't have 19 twos or whatever those are for those cans. So no, it is a trend across the industry.
Yeah, so it's funny. 2 consecutive days now, yesterday and today, 2 people completely unrelated. I don't know how it came up on either occasion, but one works in retail, and one is just a coworker of mine who likes beer and knows that I was a brewer. And they both said, "Hey, do you remember Bombers?" uh, because like there used to be one of those doors was Bombers, right?
Yep.
And then Bombers went away, and that door then became, your 19 twos or your tall boys or things like that. But it seems like a lot of those are kind of going the same way as Bombers. That was like a weird replacement for Bombers in a lot of ways. And I think part of it is because Bombers were all like supposed to be special releases,
Yeah.
right? It's a whole.
But
They
there were
went
some
away.
that did it as like Stone's primary package was Bombers of a lot of their Eric and Bastard was only in a Bomber bottle. Like the IPA had 12-ounce package eventually, but I think it was only Bomber bottles for a while. Like it is crazy that some of them use that as a primary package.
Yeah,
Well,
well, they went away for a lot of reasons, and I think probably a
But
lot of
isn't
them
it
were pretty good
funny?
reasons.
Isn't it funny how so when we got into beer, it was I would say we, and I'm making a big assumption here, but like Bombers were a big deal, and there were 12-ounce bottles as well, and then Bombers fell out of like the liking of people, and cans became bottles in general did. Cans became a thing. We went down to 12-ounce cans, then we went up to 16-ounce cans. I feel like we very briefly went back down because like I remember that point where Dale started doing 16-ounce cans of certain Deviant Dales, a beer that I really loved. And then they discontinued it because it wasn't selling well. Even our distributor at that time was like, yeah, 16-ounce cans aren't anything. Like, you guys shouldn't do it. And then 16-ounce cans came back with the haze craze and have stuck around as a package format, especially with certain types of accounts like music venues, sports venues, and now into C-stores. And now we've gotten bigger into the 19.2s. There's even 22-ounce cans that I've seen of like, I had some Modelo 22-ounce cans at a soccer game a few weeks ago. There's Pabst 24-ounce cans, I think. Like, everything has gotten bigger again. And we're back up to bomber size.
I don't know. I feel like I've seen a lot more breweries start to go back to 12-ounce cans. And maybe that's a regional thing, but yeah.
But no, I think the majority of them are. I think that there's, especially in that concert venue, especially in stadiums, especially in those C-stores, those have become a very popular thing for a quick and easy alcohol delivery system, right?
Yep.
If you're at a stadium and you want a beer, do you want to get a 12-ounce Miller Lite, or do you want a 22-ounce Miller Lite so you don't have to go buy 2 of them, right? So there's a lot of, and you would never have a glass bottle of that. So there's a lot of good reasons why you see that kind of ebb and flow. It was never, I
Mhm.
don't think, a size issue with bottles. I think it was the cumbersome nature, maybe some
The
pretentiousness,
price too.
the pricing. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I think it's interesting. You're always going to see those ups and downs in those sizes. And uh, I wanted to go back to something you were saying, Mike, about that the new release shelf, because yes, I think that's become uh it now is, if all the singles are gone, that now is the place where beer goes to die, because there are beers that I know for a fact I go there every week and I see that same six pack and I know
Mhm.
it's now, and I'm just counting, okay, now it's 9 months old, now it's 10 months old. And it's interesting because when I peruse that shelf, and so part of this is just me being out of touch and an old man, but there's nothing I'm interested in. I'm not interested in any of these breweries. I don't like the can. I mean, even the can art, it's not speaking to me at all. And there are breweries in some ways that I know in the back of my mind are like a big deal, or I've been told that they like get great ratings on Untapped. And I look and they've got, 25 adjunct ingredients. And I look at it and go, is this, if this is so popular, why is this 6 pack or 4 pack of 16-ounce cans 8 months old? And if this is another losing profit center for this business, how long is this going to stay around? When is it going to get to a point where they only bring in 2 or 3 specialty beers a month because they're not going to sell them?
Mhm.
So, when is that 2 shelves gonna go away? Because in my opinion, it doesn't look like it's being very successful.
I mean, I think the proliferation of breweries has taken away from. This is gonna sound weird. It's taken away from hype breweries because there's so many breweries and so many actually really good local breweries that people like. So you're talking New Glarus, right? New Glarus makes really good beer. This is not me shitting on New Glarus, but New Glarus has gotten so much out of hype over the years, and that hype had. I mean, 10 years ago there were bars in Minnesota that would get shut down because they would go over to Wisconsin and buy a keg of Spotted Cow and try to put it on tap at their bar, which is illegal. But because everyone, it was hype, it was hype, it was hype. I I barely hear anyone talk about nuclears anymore in Minnesota. Um, I barely hear about people running over to Hudson across the border to buy a bunch of nuclears because there's so many other offerings around here now. And so I think when you talk about like new releases and all of those things, I think the proliferation of breweries, the number of breweries that we now have within walking distance or spitting distance or a 9 iron away from where we live or where we work or where we play, has made, you know, those special releases not special. Right? I mean, I think about I think about Darkness Day, Surly. That used to be a gigantic thing. Not a big deal at all. I think you're just seeing, and now some of that you could say, people aren't drinking as boozy of beers, right? So you talk about the younger generation is drinking less. Some people aren't. It's not that they're not drinking at all, but they're not going after a 12% beer all the time, right? And that sometimes you have to have. I think you almost have to have special releases coincide with alcohol because people still want to feel like they're getting the most bang for their buck.
Yeah.
In
Right.
some ways, yeah.
Yeah, like I would be hard pressed to do a special release of and a bomber of a session IPA. Like it's just
Yeah.
not, it's not gonna happen. Um, but
I
yeah,
think you're pretty spot on with a lot of that, Tim, because like and I am not I we all know I am not the typical consumer, but I I have good local beer options around me for basically any style that I want. I'm not gonna go to Total Wine to buy like even like okay, Trillium just dropped some fucking packs in the state of Florida. I'm not gonna go buy a $20 4 pack of their beer. Like I can go to Civil and get a really good hazy IPA there. Like if it's on draft, I'm more inclined to give stuff like that a try. If it's at one of the bars that I go to frequently, but man, for those packs of beers from out of towners, I don't care if you got all the hype around you. I'm not really gonna pull the trigger on something like that.
Yeah,
Like there's probably only a few breweries that I would go out of my way for, and if that new release section starts getting chopped down and starts getting put on clearance, there is some stuff in there that is definitely not new releases that I would go and be like, okay, let me see if I can get like Cascade beers that have been there for years. Cascade doesn't even exist as a brewery anymore. If there's some what's a Bottle Logic barrel aged stouts that go on the clearance over there, and I can get like a $10 bomber of some BA Imperial Stout. Sure, I'll go hawk that up. But yeah, I am so more inclined to just buy from my locals that I know and I like that make those styles well than to just get something from some hype boy from out of town. Like I'll maybe go out of my way to buy a Maine beer here and there, but like that's probably twice or three times a year. Like not every day.
So, our buddy, friend of the show, Sam, who we are now in business with, he's doing the marketing for our brewery. He's much more plugged into the craft beer scene, like the kind of the hype scene, if that's still a thing. Because first of all, he's into those things. He's very friendly with a lot of the local brewers, and he represents as a marketing company of a brewery that's had a lot of hype on it for many, many years. And he's even made comments to me when we just passing, like, yeah, hype is dead. Hype is dead. It
Mhm.
doesn't exist anymore. You can't have a business on it. And we kind of already knew that. And we knew the industry was going in that direction when Wakefield closed, because like that was a mega hype brewery that, people were spending $200 to have a bottle shipped from Florida for a crappy ass Berliner Weiss that tasted like Butalic. But, you know, it's, we kind of knew the
Tell us
industry was
more
going.
how you feel.
Did I say that out loud, or I thought we were just talking, just the three of us? But no, I mean it's just interesting because if we weren't seeing a complete downturn of the beer industry, which we are, if we weren't, and we saw these same trends, I think I would think, that the
The
industry
double
was
hypothetical. That's
right.
impressive.
Guys, I'm firing on all cylinders right here. No, I believe I would look at it as the industry is maturing,
Mhm.
because quite honestly, the hype thing was always bullshit.
Yeah.
The hype imperial stout that people would step over their grandmother for was never better than Bell's Expedition.
Mhm.
It just never was. And we deluded ourselves into thinking it was because it was harder to get. So realizing, as both of you guys have just said, my local brewery makes it just as good a double IPA as anyone that's, has higher scores on Untapped. Of course they do. And they always have. This is not magic, right? Quality beer is all over the place. Crappy beer is all over the place too, but quality beer is all over the place. And it would be a different world if we weren't talking about how people were drinking less beer overall. But the fact that a brewery can go from being a hype brewery and one that is making all their money off these releases to then just making like a great Pilsner and a great IPA and a great whatever else, and their tap room is profitable and they're in 6-packs at Publix. That's good.
Mhm.
That's what we should be doing. It should not be about, oh, if we don't release 25 new beers this year and get a line out the door, then we can't make our rent. That's not a sustainable model. And it was destroying our business. Maybe it's part of the reason why we are where we are right now. So some of these things are actually good. Maybe the shrinking of those shelves is the best thing we could ask for, because the best beer that actually sells will be on those shelves, and it won't sit around forever, and people won't try an IPA for the first time that's 9 months old and go, IPAs suck.
Yeah, yeah. I think, it's funny because a lot of those hype breweries, I'm thinking Lagunitas, I'm thinking Stone, the whole
Like breweries from the early days of
Yeah, the early
Yeah.
hype
Yeah.
brewers.
yeah, the early hype breweries, but like I'm thinking, these breweries that used to always, call light beer sex in a canoe because it's fucking close to water, like all that stuff. They turned around and had to like
do them.
yeah, they did them, right? Um, I think I think part of the whole idea of like I really appreciate what you said, Kevin, about maturing, right? Maturing is realizing that stupid arrogance of we're never doing that shit. You know, I mean, Surly here has gone through the exact same thing. They're still huge. They still sell a ton. They still have big contracts. I think a lot of that's legacy, though, right? You get into a good distribution footprint. You get into every venue. I can't tell you the last time I heard anyone, like whether that's on Beer Advocate or local Minnesota Beer Reddit or at other breweries or at events or anything, say anything about a new Surly release. And I honestly couldn't tell you what they have right now. They've gotten lost in the shuffle, but it's because there's so many other places. And I'm not saying they're not busy. I don't know. I haven't been to their tap room in probably 4 or 5 months, and it was okay busy. They do well now because they have an event space and host concerts, like big national acts and things like that. They're still that destination brewery, but I think they're a destination brewery not for the beer as they are for everything else. And I think seeing all of these hypes now pivot to non-hype beers, right? Like who's getting hyped about light lager? Uh and I'm not to say that they're good, but they just don't generate. There's not going to be a line out the door for that stuff, and you're seeing a lot of places. I mean, I remember doing bottle releases at Badger Hill where there was lines out the door down the parking lot, like hundreds of people in line before we even opened. I can't tell you a single brewery around here who has been able to do any release that has come anywhere near that since pre-COVID. Like it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. So
The
I, for one, applaud the death of hype.
the industry has changed. It continues to evolve and to change. And you said something that I think is really important. And my partner Keith at the brewery reminds me of this on the regular. Our perception of any business is nothing more than our perception of it.
Mhm.
You see a brewery that is doing hype beers and they've got lines out the door and you assume they're making money. You have no idea if they're making money. They
Yeah.
could be losing money hand over fist and dumping money into the business. And then you can see a brewery that has pivoted and are doing nothing but light lagers, and they're making money off their concert venue. They might be making more money off beer than they ever have before, and in addition, they're doing these other things. Until you look at the books, you have no idea how successful any business is being. Just because they're visible, just because they've got a lot of hype, just because the people know about them means absolutely nothing. And
Yeah.
I think the guys that have survived have pivoted it to, I mean, we used to talk about this all the time. I don't think it's been mentioned in a while, but have pivoted to shelfies, right?
Mhm.
With this dirty word that, you make bad beer because it looks like a shelfie, right? Those guys are still around. And the guys that are trying to make it off of their 75 adjunct imperial stout and pretending like it's special have either started having to do other things and done it poorly and failed, or they've gone out of business.
Yeah, I mean, I even the hypiest hype breweries around here. I can't tell you the last time I went into a brewery and didn't see what was essentially a Ham's clone as one of the offerings. Like everyone is making, there's a brewery that calls one Dad's Basement Beer, right? There's There's Tom's with 2 M's. There's Sam's with 2 M's. There's
Didn't
like
you have the Tom's one on the show before?
I
Yeah,
did. Well, yeah.
I feel like I remember that.
Well, yeah. That was when Tom had passed away. But yeah. It like even some of those they're like everyone's learned that like. Well, first of all, I think enough people started to respect those styles in a way that they didn't before, right? I think even like the nerdiest nerds learned that, you know, enough breweries were just covering up shitty beer with graham crackers and chocolate syrup. That I'm not saying the general drinking public got a more refined palate. I think it just maybe I think enough of the nerds that made hype happen, they also matured, right? So it's not just that the breweries matured. I think you can't have hype without consumers that buy into hype, and I think consumers buy into hype less as well because they've had enough of those bad ones, or they spent too much money, or they've gone to 17 different places and realized, boy, these all taste the same. They just taste like Hershey syrup, and they don't taste like like. There's enough of that stuff where I feel like, uh, I feel like it's on the consumers as well of how they've matured and evolved. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, Kevin, that you made a really good point is you don't know how well, just because someone was really like every brewery that closes down here, you hop on Reddit and it's a holy shit, they're always busy. I was like, well, busy and profitable are two very different things. Two very, very different things. And so I like it drives me up the wall when I hear, oh, they're always busy. How are they going out of business? Well, first of all, I could be jam packed with a family that makes my, 3 families make my place look really busy, and dad has 2 beers and mom has one, and they're there for 4 hours, so I look like I've been busy the entire time, but I haven't made a fucking cent off of them. I think
But
I
there
think
are also places that are busy doing really good business that are terrible at managing their business
well,
and
yeah,
go out
yeah,
of business.
that too. That's the other thing that I've often said is uh being popular and being good at business are two completely different things.
Uh,
So yeah.
so I'm looking at Surly's beer offerings because I was curious. There's still a few things that I remember in their year-round lineup. Furious is still an IPA that they make.
Yep.
Hell, their lager. I remember that one. Everything after that, actually, Axeman is a year-round beer too. I remember that was a seasonal at one point because that was one of Todd's beers before he
Yeah,
left.
it was originally called Todd the Axeman, and
Yeah.
then when he left, they just changed it to Axeman.
But they have Mosh Pit Juicy Pale Ale,
Yep.
Mosh Pit Hazy IPA. This beer is nice. A fucking Borat reference. There are 3
Brian Torres'
eyes
favorite beer.
in it. They call it light beer golden ale. They have a grapefruit sour, and then nitro coffee ale, which I'm wondering if that's a take on of Bender because it does look like it's a brown ale because Coffee Bender was a brown ale, right?
Well, yeah, you had regular Bender and you had coffee Bender.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
yeah.
But it's nitro can and nitro poured. Kevin's favorite. Kevin loves nitro beers. Um, but also, I see on here they do THC stuff. They do hop water. They do NA beers as well. So they're staying busy, to say the least.
Oh, for sure. Again, that doesn't mean to say busy, but
No, I was just
yeah.
curious as to what we previously knew of Surly because Darkness was one of the it beers. I mean, I remember sharing different variations of Darkness with Kevin at bottle shares in the past, barrel aged versions of it.
Multiple vintages,
Yeah.
verticals we would do with that. And I mean, to me, it was always Dark Lord, Kate the Great, Black Tuesday, and Darkness. Those were the 4 imperial stouts that were like the ones to get your hands on.
Yeah,
Remember Kate the Great?
And
Yeah.
no one seems to give a shit about those. And again, I think part of that is that, you know, people's palates have changed and matured, and people are, even if they aren't necessarily drinking less, they're not necessarily just looking to get the highest AB. Now, you go to a beer fest, all bets are off. There's
It's
still plenty of
like
people that give me your
Dark Lord
highest.
Day is still a thing, but it's not like what it used to be. It
No,
seems
not
to
at
be
all.
more based around the experience. It's a concert and like
But that's smart. It's smart that they
yeah.
pivoted and said this is never going to be what it was before. Uh, We have talked a little bit. We've kind of gone all over the place, right? Talking
Yeah.
about the single shelf, but then talking about hype, and then talking about marketing and or not marketing, but the market and profitability. And to bring this back on the heels of what Tim said a little bit earlier, was talking about that if you look at what Total Wine and More has done, eliminating a large section of that shelf. If you are in this industry and you're not looking at what they're doing and what Publix is doing and what the big box retail, the ones that are selling most of the beer, right? If you're not looking at what they're doing and trying to think of why they're doing it and what you should be doing in response to that, then you are behind the curve.
Mhm.
There's a reason why those things have gone away. And maybe it's just because the customer base isn't as interested in new beers. Maybe it's because the beer was all warm. Maybe it's because seltzers just sell more, whatever it is. But you have to be looking at what that changing taste means, because they are responding to dollars, real world situations. No one walked in and said, you know, I'm just not feeling this anymore. I just don't like the feng shui of this aisle. I think we should move this around. No one's done that. They've looked at their books and said, what is our least profitable thing and how can we use this space to produce more money? And we have to respond and look at, you don't have to like knee jerk respond and then start changing everything you do, but you should be looking at what does this mean for my business? And how can I lean into whatever looks like more profitable for them? I'd kill to get a breakdown profit wise or sales wise, net volume wise of what the 12 pack area is doing and what the breakdown of that is, what the new item specialty seasonal release is doing, what the import section is doing, what the local section is doing. To see that breakdown will tell you where the industry is going, because it's getting to the most amount of consumers. And the industry will tell you when Publix reduces this amount of these kind of beers, it's telling you they're not popular. Doesn't mean you can't be successful. If they reduce the amount of wheat beers and you've got a wheat beer, doesn't mean you can't sell a wheat beer. Sometimes you're golden because there's less competition and you can double down on that and you can have a success. But it's a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I've noticed anecdotally, but I've heard this from other places as well, and I think I even remember reading this as a strategy for Total Wine, actually. Um, so there was a while where like variety packs really big, and then you couldn't put together a variety pack to save your life. And now they're really coming back, and that's where Total Wine is really kind of leaning in, and a lot of others is, you know what? Okay, if there are so many breweries, right? I'm not going to bring in 6 SKUs from this brewery in Michigan. I'm going to bring in one, their variety pack. That way, I'm still introducing people to all those things. But if you want to go ahead and get that brewery's Oktoberfest, you're gonna have to buy it in their autumn sampler pack or whatever. I think the variety pack is sort of having a resurgence just because these places that, even if they're not shrinking their space, they're less SKUs per space, or per brand, I guess. Uh, I think that's a place where I don't know, I don't have the data to back this up. But I anecdotally have seen a lot more of that where it's kind of come back.
But
Um,
you make a good point. Like it is almost like you get like four placements in the spot of one
yeah,
to be able to introduce people to four options for it. Like I've never been really sure on your stance on this, Tim, because I know that Kevin and I big fans of variety packs. Like we love a variety pack, and like Costco, I think we've talked about this on the show plenty of times, is a great place where we have gotten variety packs before. And my grocer, like Publix, used to carry a good bit of some of those, and then it seemed to go away. But yeah, I've been seeing, like, I mean, Sierra Nevada's been doing a bang up job. Or wait, is bang up a bad thing or is that a good thing? I don't
No,
know.
I
It's a
think
good thing.
It's a good thing. They're doing a bang up job with their variety packs with Costco. Like anytime there's one in there, we buy it. But I've been seeing like Firestone Walker's doing like an IPA variety pack with like Union Jack and some of their other varieties out there, and I think that that's an awesome little thing. I to this day wish that we had Firestone down here just to be able to try some of that stuff. Not that I would be pushing their sales super hard, but man, there's a lot of
I
stuff that they do I want to try.
I gotta say, be careful what you wish for, because
I know.
Firestone came into this market and everyone got really excited, and then we just ended up with a lot of really old Firestone.
I used to, when I lived in Philly, we got Firestone there, and I know what you mean. Like,
yeah,
the day that I moved, or the first day that I went to the little beer shop by my house, I saw Pivo that was probably 6 to 8 months old.
yeah.
And then the day that we moved, I went to that shop to buy some stuff on my way out. That 6-pack of Pivo was still there
Yeah,
a year later.
and I don't necessarily blame Firestone for that. But
No.
distributors know how to get rid of old beer.
I mean,
They should.
yeah.
As big of a fan of
They don't know how to clear it off the
Allagash as I am,
shelves.
I'm not buying a shit ton
Oh,
of
I see what
Allagash
you're
at the
saying,
stores.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen it. Big local brands, Summit, Shells, Surly. They might only have 3 placements on a shelf now, where they used to have 6, and one of those is a variety pack. Yeah, my opinion of variety packs is I love variety packs. I have a love-hate relationship with variety packs. As someone who used to do a lot of variety packs, I fucking hate them. um, I I also the people who are doing variety packs right, I love. Um, Please just don't ever put a pumpkin beer in your autumn variety pack. Save that for a special release, because I'm gonna have 9 beers that I drink and 3 beers that are sitting in the back of my shelf, or the back of my fridge.
Depends on
Waiting
the
for.
pumpkin beer, right? I mean, there's
Well,
a couple
no,
of good ones out there.
There are a couple good ones, but like.
Okay,
Sometimes I feel like that's also a way breweries get rid of their old beer.
what is a variety pack beer that stung you, and why is it cranberry lambic from Sam Adams?
False marketing. So as we were talking about variety packs, I was thinking about this because, when I do look at that area, I go, hey, this is a place that we're not. And we are in no position to do a variety pack. It's not going to happen. But I was thinking about, Mike, how you were talking about, and even Tim, you were saying about the New Belgian ones and this all voodoo and all the crazy hoppy faux IPAs. And I was thinking, if Barrel of Monks did one, we have no continuity with our year-round brands. So I would do a variety pack, and it would just be a plain white container, and it would just say, this is all we got. And it's just our 4 year-round beers with no continuity, no rhyme or reason. It's a hazy IPA, a guava blonde ale, a wit, and a triple. And that's just it. I'm sorry, this doesn't make any sense, but it's all we got. So here you go.
That is the essence of variety, really. Like, let's be honest. Like, I feel like variety is looked at now as just being multiple brands, but they are keeping a theme of a style. Like those most of those Sierra variety packs are IPA based.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But when you had like that throwback one that was
great.
that had Tumblr and
But that was
Nooner,
a gimmick.
like that had multiple. There was 2 IPAs in there, but very different IPAs, a rye and a red IPA.
Ruthless, yeah.
Like I kind of dig the idea of like hey, here's a fruit beer, here's a wit beer, here's an IPA, and here's a triple. Like that is variety to a T.
I just like the idea of being like, is it? I mean, do you want to have it? Okay, you don't. That's fine. Let's be here. And most of these beers age okay.
Because
You know,
also,
Summit has so Summit came out with Saga IPA. They have a Saga variety pack. So it's like their Saga, their Session Saga, their Hazy Saga, and their Double Saga. Like that to me, like I get it. I'm sure it sells well. I've gotten it a couple of times just because it was the thing that jumped out at me. I drank like maybe 6 to 8 of those, and then like left the Double Saga in the back of the fridge because I didn't need to wake up with my clothes off in the front yard type of thing. But it's funny to me because I always laughed. I just laugh when I look at that and like call that a variety pack. I'm like, okay, so you're just finding a way to get a lot more legs out of one brand. More power to them, but it does feel like, what does the word variety not have a meaning anymore? That's what makes me chuckle.
It's like having an old school variety show, like back in the 60s and 70s, and you've got like a juggler, and then you've got another juggler, and then you've got a juggler that like juggles like fire,
Sure.
and then you've got a ventriloquist. I
Who
don't know why
juggles?
you have him.
I was just gonna say ventriloquist who juggles. Gonna make the same joke, so that's perfect. Yeah.
or you could have chainsaw jugglers, which is what the joke is not about. You could have a person going to buy apples and whether or not they want it to be bagged up.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but this is
Just getting into Mitch Hedberg jokes.
yeah. So I just saw Jim Bast on Instagram. So Jim Bast was one of the original owners of Funky Buddha, of the lounge. And when we went from the lounge to the brewery, he parted ways with Ryan Sense. But Jim, it was me, Ryan, and Jim starting the original Funky Buddha Lounge. And I love Jim, but I haven't talked to him in a long, long time. But I saw a picture of him recently on Instagram where like him and his son like saved someone, 'cause he's a firefighter. But him and his son like saved someone from dying or something of that nature. And so it just got me thinking about this, is that like the variety thing. So he was being interviewed for like a local TV or something. And he was talking about the variety of people doing open mic night at Funky Buddha. And he's like, yeah, we got all kinds of different people. We got like poets and like beat poets and spoken word poets, and then it cut off. and we were
We've
thinking,
got
poety poets, the kind of poets that say words, just poets, everything you can possibly think of. Poets.
we've got both kinds, country and western.
Country.
So this is a very rubber bandy, bouncy ball episode. Like we're just bouncing from location to location on this.
Normally, we stay very focused
That is
on
true.
topic.
We won internet's most focused podcast from a place.
Yeah, this is very off brand for us.
I don't really know how to tie that all back into what we were talking about.
I could give it a try. I just think that a lot of what we're talking about is just a shifting focus of the industry. And we have talked so much about how things are changing and the industry's down and this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of people being very successful off of whatever's happening now because either A, they anticipated it, or B, they got really lucky. Like the industry started liking the things that they did and they were like, oh shit, we can do this. We can continue to do this and we're going to be profitable. But I do think that all these little symptoms of what these retailers are doing, what's happening in tap rooms, are things that we all, if we're in the industry, have to be cognizant of. and we have to keep looking at what's next, because how many people were selling a 12% Imperial Stout 750 and said the good times are never going to end,
Yeah.
right? And that ended about 12 years ago. So, whatever we're doing now, that's going to end too. And it's
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
the people that can adapt. And I still think, and this might just be my old stodgy, old man yelling at a cloud, the guys that are just doing a really great IPA and a really great pale ale and have consistency in product and messaging, a lot of them are still around. And if you can find a way to just be good at what you do and smart about how you pivot, how you look at your business, what markets you open up so that you don't dilute your brand, and you get lucky, maybe you can be successful.
You hear that, everyone? Just do what Kevin just said. It's easy. It's so fucking easy.
And I want to take this time to announce that Barrel of Monks is closing. Tomorrow is our last day.
I was gonna say it's just that easy, which is why Kevin is actually recording from his yacht right now.
Oh,
No,
wait a minute. The industry just changed again.
Yeah.
We're all wrong. Oh, fuck.
I do appreciate you saying luck, because I think there are a lot of places that boy, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine in general. Is successful people don't underplay the role that luck played in their success. That's been proven time and time again. Like there have been scientific papers on this. Like like people always get like offended if you call something luck. And like, oh no, I worked hard. I'm like, sure, I'm certain you worked hard. I'm also certain that there are a billion people who also worked just as hard as you that weren't successful. They didn't have access to the right people. They didn't have the right opportunity. They didn't have the right. Well, I took advantage of that opportunity. Cool. Sometimes, like, great, you did. You were still given an opportunity. I mean, I complain all the time about having no luck. I was born a straight white male in America. I'm the luckiest. I'm luckier than 90% of the world. Like don't. I think a lot of breweries look at success that they've had and pat themselves on the back an awful lot, right? And I think there have been a lot of that has kind of come home to roost lately. And so the ones that are trying to pivot, like you said, and figure out what's next, you almost have to be 2 steps down. We talk about THC. There are a couple breweries that have announced closures recently. And when I talk to, people who work there, talk to owners, it's boy, we really went in on THC, and that market became crowded quickly. And oh boy, by the way, now that dispensaries are starting to open, people aren't looking. It's Seltzer's 2.0. It really is. And so that picking out of what's next, right? I love what you're saying, Kevin, of looking at retailers, not looking at what everyone else is doing. Like, to me, that's way more important because everyone else is also throwing shit against the wall and trying to see what sticks. Retailers like Total Wine have metrics you've not even thought of. You didn't even know exist.
From all over the country, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just your local market.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They look at this in a completely different way. If you've ever worked at, the headquarters of a retail operation, like at a Target or a Best Buy or whatever, that the people that like the way they measure the impact of anything on an end cap or in a cooler or anything, it's just different than the way that brewers think. It's just different.
Yeah.
And so don't look at brewery down the road. Look at Total Wine, I think is a way smarter way to go about it. But yeah, there's going to be that luck piece.
I went out in the market with our sales rep today to a few places, on-premise places. And like, I don't get to do that very often. So it was nice to do that and feel like I'm not just like a mole person who lives below the ground. But it's always eye-opening because you can see what works for some people and what works for doesn't work for other people, and they can be so close together, like sometimes literally across the street from one another, and have completely different beer preferences on because of like, this is what works here, this is what works here, and like, man, how are you guys not pulling the same customers? But it's, yeah, you have to look at what the market is, and like we went to like 3 different places in a row where 2 of them had like our best-selling beer on draft, and we're like, okay, cool. And then the third one has our best-selling beer in package while our number 3 beer is on draft. And they have like, and that's an IPA, and they have 3 other IPAs as well on draft, where none of the places before it we went to had more than one. Like, so obviously IPA does really well at that place, and it is like a quarter of a mile away from the other 2 places that have one IPA on each one. It is such a crazy market that allows you like to see stuff, learn stuff, and then try to figure out how the fuck do I work off of this data.
Well, and I would even argue that off-prem is way more important to look at than on-prem. And
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I also think they're just a lot more mature. So again, I know I've talked about this ad nauseum, but I worked at the
Say
headquarters
Target,
of
say Buffalo Wild Wings.
Buffalo Wild Wings and Best Buy.
But Best Buy. Sorry.
But the analytics of Best Buy, light years ahead. You had guys at Buffalo Wild Wings who had no idea what they're talking about, making a lot of decisions. They weren't looking at data. They were looking at hype as much as anything else. Companies like that, they just, the largest sports bar chain in the country, and the people making beer buying decisions were literally talking to their cousin. Like, it was that far behind. And then also look at the number of bars, like especially beer specific bars that everyone thinks are doing well that have been closing lately. Like, they're not getting it right either. Total Wine is growing in a down market. It's a down alcohol market, and Total Wine is growing. They have shit figured out better than any bar owner ever.
But I think what Mike was saying is that it's complex, right? And part of our business is draft, and listen,
for sure.
We could spend the next hour talking about that too, the breakdown of that and the difference in that, and what that means to your business of that local market where you've got a brand performing better than any other account in a 3-county area, but you can't get that beer to perform as well in the restaurant across the street. For whatever reason, that clientele just responds to it. You want to set up franchises. You think, oh, the beer's performing well here. I'm going to now hit every other bar, see how well it's doing, and then all of a sudden I'm going to grow my business. And you go, oh, that no one cares about it at the Italian restaurant across the street. But yeah, it's a complex thing. Mike, your befuddlement in looking at that is we all experience it. I just wish you would have heard my very succinct, intelligent, simple thing that I said earlier that fixed everybody's problems. And if you just would have listened to that, you can kind of use that to go forward, because I fixed it all.
You should do a masterclass on that, Kevin, and sell it.
I would do it. But to what Tim said, the first thing I would say is any success I've had, and it's been minimum, any success I've had, 95% luck, 5% skill at best. That's how I'd start it, and then I would give my brilliant ideas.
I'm gonna paraphrase because I think that this is what it says. So, one of my favorite professional wrestlers of all time, CM Punk, has a tattoo on. He has many tattoos, but one of them I believe says "Luck is for losers." And I've always hated that tattoo because I'm like, luck absolutely plays into stuff. Like,
That's
not
childish.
all the time,
It's
and not but it does. Like,
can can we transition into last calls? Because it's a perfect transition for what I'm going to talk about. And my last call from last week was also about professional wrestler. Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Let's
done.
let's head into last calls, the point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want, beverage related or not. The only rules is that it's uninterrupted, unopposed, unobjected. I was gonna start with Tim because he wasn't here last week, but I got to start with Kevin now because he made this thing happen. So, Kevin, what's your last call?
I'm sorry to force this on you guys, but Hulk Hogan died. And it has been a thing online with this debate about, was he a good guy? Was he not a good guy? I'll settle it for you. He wasn't a good guy. He wasn't a good guy at all. He was a racist. I mean, he said he was, and as much, and demonstrated it in many areas. He was a narcissist, selfish. He may or may have not have beaten his wife. I'm not sure about that. That's the jury's still out. He was a habitual liar. I mean, comically lying about nearly everything he's ever done. And this debate on whether or not he's a good guy or not is something that I just don't care about. In general, what is more important than Hulk Hogan is when anyone passes away, there is a lionization that happens. And there's this idea that we just have to say all the good things about them. Now, I'll give a caveat here. If you're ever talking to somebody's loved one, like someone passes away and they're kind of an asshole, and you're talking to their loved one or someone that really respects and cares about them, don't be an asshole. Don't say, oh, yeah, by the way, your husband's a racist. You don't do that because you're a human being. You have to be respectful. They lost someone they cared about. That's the way you do things. And if I thought that Hulk Hogan's wife or daughter would listen to this, I wouldn't be calling Hulk Hogan an asshole. But I know for a fact they're not. So I can do that. We have to stop with this idea that people have to either be good or bad. Hulk Hogan probably did a lot of really nice things to people over the years. People loved and adored him for the entertainment that he gave them. And he probably did tons of nice, kind, sweet, loving things to dozens and dozens of people because that's what people do. Even the biggest monsters in the world were kind and loving to a select few. Being honest about the fallibility of other people when they've passed is important because it shows our own humanity. My grandfather died when I was in 7th grade. And my grandfather was always very kind to me. He showed up to all my baseball games, my bowling game. He was always there for me. He didn't talk much. I don't really know anything about him, but he was there. And when he died, my dad got up at his funeral. And I think I may be butchering this. I'm remembering it in my own way. But for my interpretation, this is what happened. The first thing he said was something to the effect of, my dad wasn't a very good father. You know what? You want to know why he said that? Because my grandfather was not a good father. He was a drunk. He was mean. And he did terrible things. And he acknowledged that at his funeral. He then went on to say, but when he had grandchildren, he changed. He treated his grandchildren extremely well. He treated my son and I'm paraphrasing at this point. I don't remember this. I was in 7th grade. But the spirit got through to me. I was lucky that I was influenced by someone who took a person's life and didn't distill it down to the fact that they were good or evil. He said this person was a person. And he didn't brush by their mistakes just because they had died. And if we can't have an honest discussion about everybody's life, what are we doing? I am not perfect by a long shot. When I die, there are people I know that have grudges against me and they're going to be happy it happened. I know. Maybe it's just the person that I just yelled at, that I flipped off because they cut me off in traffic. And if they found out, good, that guy's dead. Fine. I was an asshole to that person. That's fine. We contain magnitudes. There is nothing wrong with pointing out the negative aspects of a human being when they pass. You can speak ill of the dead when it's appropriate. You also can acknowledge, although they had ills, they had positives. They were kind to me once. They, for Hulk Hogan, did more Make-A-Wishes than anybody else. That's fine too. You're not an asshole and you're not pro-racist if you say Hulk Hogan had all these amazing experiences and made all these kids happy. Life is complex. It doesn't become less complex when you die. And we all have to just deal with that.
You're here. Now I will go to Tim.
I've not had a last call that I wanted to respond to more, so I hate our rules. My last call is gonna be something completely different. I cut all my streaming services. Money's gotten a little tight for me, and so I spend most of my streaming just looking at things on YouTube. And what's kind of fun is discovering, clips of shows that you haven't ever seen. There was a show on BBC Two called Fast and Loose. I think it's from the producers of Whose Line Is It Anyway? But there is a comedian that I remember seeing years ago. I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. When did 20? Probably more than 20 years ago. When Natalie Imbruglia's Torn came out, there was this comedian David Armand who did interpretive dance to Torn. And eventually did it live on stage with her and everything. It was hysterical. He's one of the comedians on this Fast and Loose show, and he does interpretive dance, and the whole bit is two people wear, noise canceling headphones, they can't hear anything, and then they have to guess just based on watching the interpretive dance what the song is. It's hysterical, it's brilliant. I've tried it myself. I've tried to click on a video without reading the title, and I just know what it is. Or I'll autoplay so I can't see the title, and I turn the volume down and I try to guess. It is hysterical. I wish this would have gotten more popular. It's the same bit over and over again, but I giggle every single time. Sometimes there's just things that are dumb that you can't help but giggle at. YouTube is also great for old movies. I've watched My Blue Heaven like 6 times in the last 2 weeks. But just seeing little nuggets like that made me realize, man, I don't need to spend money on all these streaming services. My daughter's totally gotten cool with it. I I guess this is just sort of a shout out for YouTube as my last call of being a I shouldn't say hidden gem, but boy, it's reintroduced me to a lot of things, or introduced me to things that I wouldn't have otherwise if I were so invested in trying to catch up on the latest episode of the latest hot show or whatever. It's also maybe because my attention span is so short, or I have so much anxiety I can't get invested in anything for too long. But it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, go check out the interpretive dance portion of Fast and Loose with David Armand, if you want a good chuckle. Yeah, that's mine.
So for my last call, I'm going to catch Tim up on all of the hot shows that are going on right now. No, that's not what's going to happen because I don't even know what's going on with that. The Bear has been out for like a month at this point, and I'm only a little over halfway through the season because kids freaking suck at this point. But so none of that is what I want to talk about. Um, there is a book that I know that Kevin and I are both have both read. I'm gonna guess that Tim has probably read it, and I will let him actually chime in on this to see if he has read it. The book is called "God Is Not Great" by Christopher Hitchens.
I have, yes.
Okay, so that has a secondary title of "How Religion Poisons Everything," and that's kind of where I'm going off of this because I do feel strongly about that byline. Um, but I like to think that there's something else that poisons everything. And I believe that that's cars. And uh, cars are where so many of us spend so much of our time anymore. Um, and this is because of automakers and lobbying. And we have, over the decades, become a more car reliant society in America than probably a lot of other countries, advanced countries in this world. And I think that that has a big bearing on where we are as a society in this country. We spend so much time in isolation inside of a mass of steel and plastic and aluminum that we no longer spend time with other people in a positive way, in where we used to get on buses, get on cable cars, trolleys, trains to commute to places that we wanted to be at or places that we were working with, but we were doing that as a community together, commuting as a community together and going places with people. And it has allowed us to become hostile towards one another passively almost. Because we have these big metal objects between us, we feel like we can just flip someone off when they do something wrong to us. We can yell out the window to them because what are they going to fucking do? They're going to slam their $25,000 and up investment, not just a little object into us. Are they going to risk all of that money going down the drain to do something to us? We have built up this hostility towards each other in cars. We spend so much time of our lives in cars that we could be spending doing things that we actually like to do. And this brings me to things that are going on all over the country of defunding and shutting down public transit areas. In Pennsylvania, the tons of public transportation systems are under threat from Republican state Congress people for funding, including SEPTA in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia area, not just Philadelphia, but their collar counties as well, with bus lines, commuter rail lines possibly being shut down. They were imposing a 9 p.m. curfew on the subways potentially, and reduction in workforce. Not just that, but also smaller transportation systems throughout the state. Pittsburgh, the Lehigh Valley, Harrisburg area, like all of those are under threat. I was just reading the other day about our own commuter rail system down here in South Florida, Tri-Rail, that could potentially be phased out after 2026 because they have no budget given to them past then. And like people who live down here can joke all they want. Tri-Rail is a pretty pathetic commuter system, but there are a lot of people who rely on that system for getting to and from work, getting to and from things that they want to be able to do. And this is a day after I read about Tri-Rail trying to put it through a study on moving their rail system to a different rail that the Bright Line runs on that goes through way more places of interest and downtowns of other towns that would be tenfold of an improvement to that system. But we have people like Sean Duffy going on television and saying that public transit is fucking dangerous. Fuck you. I've never been on a public transit system that I felt in danger of. And we need public transit for all people of every color, of every gender, of every class system to be able to get cars off the fucking road because of greenhouse gases and just the amount of time that those fucking take out of our lives. People, if you are as feeling this as much as I am, I welcome to the War on Cars. Go to thewarancars.org. They have a podcast. They have a Patreon. They have so much work that they do in the realms of public transit and just everything that the car industry has done to destroy lives in this country. Because I could get into highways and what those have done on neighborhoods and all of that, but there are places that you can read about that, listen to that from people who are way better than me at this. But when a few months ago, when we had Joe Plouffe on and he said Strodes, it made my heart beat so hard, because that is a term in urban planning that it makes me so angry. And read up on that, because you have them near you and they are terrible and they are dangerous. But yeah, we need more public transit for everyone. We need to get cars off the road for everyone. Please, you can own a car and still be anti-car. I have two, and I am anti-car. I want to be able to use trains. I want to be able to use buses. I want to be able to use my car too. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of your car, but it means that you have options. And I think that's the ultimate thing. And it brings communities together when we are not just stuck in pieces of steel for hours of our day, hating everyone around us. Does anyone want to plug anything?
I do.
Kevin.
I can't respond in fairness to either one of your last calls, but I can promote something. Adam Conover did an incredible episode about cars in Adam Ruins Everything and has talked about cars many times. I would promote you going and checking that out. And I also I promote the idea that it's not tipping that I believe in, it's over tipping. That's the My Blue Heaven quote right there for you, Tim.
Tim, do you want to plug anything?
I was on mute, but yes. Thank you very much for that quote. That made me giggle right away. I don't really talk about busy on here a lot, but we are growing rapidly. We are in grocery store chains all over the country. Keep on adding more. As much as I'm working, I enjoy working overtime for my bank account. But I enjoy what I do. We make a good product. Go out and grab yourself some Busy Cold Brew. We recently in the natural organic category took over the lead spot according to consumer data, which is awesome. We're out selling Starbucks organic and Stoke organic, and really proud of the growth that we're doing. So if you do like yourself some cold brew coffee, go ahead and give Busy a try. I feel like such a corporate whore to do that, but I don't often do that on this show. And hey, I'm proud of what I do. So
I'll concur. Like I really liked your cold brew. I've gotten a couple bottles from my local Publix. It is available down here in Florida. Yeah. So yeah, please
I did
do
not know
go
that.
support Tim on that. Yeah, when he first started working there, he was like, "Yeah, we're available in Publix stores." So I went to my Publix right there. They had the decaf and the dark roast, uh, right in the cold brew. And I have a small store, so they sometimes don't carry everything that other stores have, but both of those were right there. Yeah, wait, I mean, light years ahead of that Starbucks stuff that just taste. Even how does their cold brew taste burnt? I don't know. Uh,
right, right.
I know that's the thing about Starbucks' regular coffee is like it always tastes burnt. But somehow the cold brews, like I've had the canned stuff and the bottled stuff before, like it. How does it still taste burnt? But yeah, please go support Tim with that because yeah, I guess it's all over the fucking place. If us and the free state of Florida have it down here, I assume that everyone else does.
I mean, we just added something I don't know. It's like Oregon, Washington, like Pacific Northwest new seasons. I think it's what it's called. We just added them. We're continuing to add new accounts. But yeah, I mean, you can find us all over. So please go ahead and give us a try.
Also, hey, if you want to tell your bosses, give us a little affiliate thing going on over here. um, I don't really got anything to plug. Oh, you know what I do want to plug? Fucking Legoland. It's a fucking blast. I think we had the last episode was before we did that, or I don't remember now.
It was.
But
It was.
okay. That place is awesome. Like I gotta say, in the world of we live in the state of amusement parks. There's so many goddamn amusement parks in Florida. Um, there's Disney, which is like all the way up on top. I would put Legoland number two. I put them over Universal, in my opinion, for their theming and like their attention to detail on stuff. Like Universal, I don't know. They just seem like they're like we're running off of our name and they don't care a whole lot. But that's me. Uh, Kids had a great time. We had a great time. The hotel was fantastic. The park's even bigger than I thought it was, and just an overall great experience. And I think that we may have gotten the kids into Legos because of Legoland. So awesome on that. And thank you to Kevin for giving great advice on the place. He had told me it's quaint. It's like the best state fair that you'd ever been to, and I think it's a little bit of even above that. Uh, really fun place. So if you're near Legoland or you're going to travel to a Legoland, go visit Legoland. It's awesome.
I have never heard quaint and state fair together, but I am from Iowa and I live in Minnesota, the two largest state fairs. They're anything but quaint. So that is very foreign to me. So I'd be curious to know what the mullet count at Legoland is.
I didn't see very many.
It's Florida.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
and it's in the middle of Florida, where
Central Florida.
you got Disney's World, Wade Boggs Carpet World. 30 Rock reference for those of you out there.
So yeah, if part of me now wants to be like, I want to go to New York. I want to go to Carlsbad. I want to see what the other American Legolands are all about. But yeah, it was a fun time. I think if you have younger kids, it's definitely like I would probably say 5 or 6 is like an optimal age for there. Our kids are 3, so one of them loved all of the thrill rides. One of them hated them, and I was like, "I'm right here with you on hating the thrill rides, bud. Let's just hang out and chill." But yeah, that place was it fucked. Like,
Okay, things got weird real quick.
So we're not getting Lego's endorsement. Any affiliate links from them?
I mean, the Danes are pretty laid back. Who knows?
Legos, they fuck.
If you would like to support our show after that rousing endorsement of Lego, please go to our website, unitedwedrink.com. Check out the Brands We Love page. We have awesome stuff there that if you purchase anything through those links, we get a little kickback on them. Other than that, we're going to be back in a couple of weeks with an awesome episode that I'm really looking forward to. And I am just going to leave it with a little teaser on this. 2 guests on the show, and that is all. We'll see you then. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers.